Namaste, dear brothers and sisters. Today we are gathered here to pay our homage to the co-founder of the Theosophical Society, Madam H.P. Blavatsky. Let us begin our session with the universal invocation. O hidden life, vibrant in every atom, O hidden light, shining in every creature, O hidden love, embracing all in oneness, may each who feels himself as one with thee know he is also one with every other. Thank you, dear brethren. Today, as we turn our thoughts and pay our respectful homage to the great soul, Madame Blavatsky, who was the co-founder of the Theosophical Society. HPB, as she was respectfully addressed by the members, or Upasika, as she was lovingly called by her great teachers. She passed on from her mortal body into the higher spheres of life on 8th of May 1891. Her close colleague and co-founder of the Theosophical Society, Colonel Henry Steele Olcott, he noticed something very striking after her death. White lotus flowers had suddenly bloomed in great numbers at the society's headquarters in Adyar. The white lotus rising above the still waters, they stand for purity, wisdom, and spiritual growth. They are a symbol of soul's journey towards enlightenment. The flower, it is rooted in earth, signifying our physical body. It rises through muddy waters, which represents the emotions, the desires. With its green leaves that are floating on the surface of the water, which is a sign of our lower mind, influenced by desire. And finally, the lotus bud blossoms kissed by sunlight. That symbolizes our soul, the manas, opening itself to the light, purity, and bliss of buddhi. Ever since, the 8th of May has been called White Lotus Day in honor of HPB. She willingly labored to propagate the ancient wisdom for spiritual upliftment of man. Her wholehearted devotion, it was not only at the cost of her material comforts, but even her health and her life. And this became an inspiring example of the Bodhisattva ideal. Now, who was HPB? We may never really know the real HPB or fully understand her. In fact, the lives of genuine occultists throughout the ages, they are for the most part very little known. But we are told that HPB was born on August 12, 1831, into a Russian aristocratic family at Ekaterinoslav, which is in the present day Ukraine. HPB was intellectually well accomplished and displayed remarkable psychic activity since early childhood. She was a fearless horse rider and she loved to be in close touch with nature. Once, at the age of 13, while horse riding, her horse became frightened and it bolted, with her leg caught in the stirrup. Then she felt someone's arms around her body, supporting her until the horse stopped. And who else could it be but her master, who always watched her? She met her teacher, Master M, in the physical body for the first time in Hyde Park, London, in 1851. She recognized him from her psychic and spiritual visions, which she usually had in childhood. And the master told her something about the work which was in store for her. And from that moment on, she accepted his guidance fully. Now, the subject of HPB's stay in Tibet, it is wrapped in considerable mystery, but she lived there at different times for a combined period of more than 7 years. HPB herself mentioned that between the Blavatsky of 1845 to 65, sorry, and the Blavatsky of the years 1865 to 82, there was an unbridgeable gulf. That is the transformation which she underwent. HPB became a disciple of Master M and was sent out into the world as a direct messenger of her spiritual teachers. Master KH mentioned in a letter to AP Senate, after nearly a century of fruitless search, our chiefs had to avail themselves of the only opportunity to send out a European body upon European soil to serve as a connecting link between that country and our own. So it was a wait of nearly 100 years. That was HPP, the most suitable channel for the master's work. Her training in Tibet led her to attain good control over her unusual spiritual and occult powers. Although her peculiar personality, more often than not, it did not quite match the European sensibilities. And owing to this, she suffered a great deal of injustice. She suffered a great deal of wrong. But none of it was due to any fault of hers. And this was assured by the Master to AP Senate, revealing a great mystery about the spiritual training and the 7 principles in the complete human being. The Master wrote, no man or woman, unless he be an initiate of the 5th circle, can leave the precincts of Bodhlas and return back into the world in his integral whole. One at least of his 7 satellites has to remain behind for 2 reasons. The first, to form the necessary link connecting the wire of transmission. The second, as the safest warrantor that certain things will never be divulged. She is no exception to the rule. Such was the great soul, HPB. Some part of her septenary constitution remained behind at Bodhlas, where she obtained her spiritual training, while she was sent out into the world for the master's work. On their orders, she traveled to New York in 1873, and while investigating a occult phenomena at Eddy Farms in Chittenden, in October 1874, the significant meeting with Colonel Olcott took place. And shortly in 1875, the TS was founded by them and a few others. Colonel Olcott and Madame Blavatsky, they moved to India in 1879, landing at Bombay. And later in 1882, the headquarters of the Theosophical Society was formed at Adyar. HPB started the monthly journal The Theosophist in 1879. It became a leading voice for promoting Eastern philosophy and occultism. It was often called the mouthpiece of the masters because many times their direct words or their replies to questions raised by members were printed in it. HPB fearlessly stood against the dogmas of all religion and the materialism of science. She promoted the Eastern philosophies and their esoteric truths to a global audience. The wisdom, force, and the power of the masters. It worked through HPB as a chosen and willing instrument. And some of the classics of esoteric literature, like The Isis Unveiled, The Secret Doctrine, they came to be written by her. After Madame Blavatsky left India in 1885, she wrote an open letter to all Theosophists, elaborating the chief desires of the masters, which, she said, was to preserve the true religious and philosophical spirit of ancient India, to defend the ancient wisdom contained in its darshans and Upanishads, and to reawaken the dormant ethical and patriotic spirit in those youths in whom it had almost disappeared owing to college education. So much of this has been achieved by and through the Theosophical Society, thanks to Madame Blavatsky. In her letter, she wrote highly of the great work done by Tukaram Tatya in reviving, translating, and editing the sacred books of the East, the Sanskrit texts, in a far more correct form than had ever been done at Oxford or by any other Orientalists. She writes this in her letter. And these books include Jivan Mukti Vivek, which was especially selected by her for translation, and the Tattva Kaumudi, in addition to several others from Indian scriptures. Now it rests with the members, it rests with us to profit by studying them in the light of theosophy. HPB herself penned the most occult spiritual ideas in her book, The Voice of Silence, and summed up the core tenets of theosophy in the book, The Key to Theosophy. In her devotion to the masters, HPB nearly killed herself with overwork. And were it not for the master's repeated help, she would have died a long time ago from the effects of such voluntary hard labor. But HPB, she gradually prepared the way for others. She gave us the golden stairs which lead to the temple of divine wisdom. And later she started the esoteric school of theosophy for members to voluntarily undertake the work required in preparing for the spiritual path, thus shifting the focus to discipline and training behind spiritual phenomena instead of trying to prove the reality of the spiritual phenomena. We will always be in debt of HPP. She is the true light bringer for bringing this ancient wisdom to the modern world. HPB said that theosophy is the perfect harmonizing of the divine with the human in man. So the real tribute to HPB would be in becoming true theosophists ourselves. Madame Blavatsky passed away on 8th May 1891 at the European headquarters of the Theosophical Society in London. Before she died, HPB asked that friends remember her by reading two special books, The Light of Asia and the Bhagavad Gita. Readings from Voice of Silence have also now been included. HPB did not want ceremonies. She did not want mourning, only peaceful reflection. And Colonel Olcott turned her simple request into an annual tradition. 8th May has become the White Lotus Day, a day of grateful remembrance and thoughtful readings, paying our heartfelt homage to Madame H.P. Blavatsky. Thank you. We will now have the readings from the three books which will be presented. The extracts from Srimad Bhagavad Gita will be read by Sister Deepika Chaudhary. Deepika Chaudhary is from the Jaipur Theosophical Lodge, and I request her now to give these readings from Srimad Bhagavad Gita.
Thank you, ma'am. मैं श्री भगवद गीता के अध्याय 2 सांख्य योग के कुछ श्लोक आपके सामने बोलना चाहूंगी। इन श्लोक में श्री कृष्ण द्वारा आत्मा की अमरता और निष्काम कर्म के ज्ञान द्वारा अर्जुन के संचय को दूर करने की शुरुआत है। ओम श्री परमात्मने नमः। तं तथा कृपा विशिष्टं शुभूणाकुलेशणम् विषीदन्तमिदं वाक्यमुवाच मधुसूदनः। कुतस्त्वाकश्मलमिदमः विषमे समुपरिस्तथम्। अनार्यजुष्टं स्वर्गयम् अकीर्तिकरमर्जुन। क्लैब्यमास्मगमः पार्थ नैतत्व्युपपदते। क्षुद्रं हृदयं दौर्बल्यं यकत्वोत्तिष्ठ परन्तप। कथमै भीष्महं संख्ये द्रोणं च मधुसूदनः। इषुभिः प्रतियोत्स्यामि ऊर्जाहारवेदी सुदनः। गुरुन् हत्वा हि महानुभावान् श्रेयो भोक्तुं भविष्यपिह लोकः। हतार्थकामास्तु गृणीहवे भुञ्जीय भोगान् रुधिर प्रतिगत्यान्। न चैत्तद्विगं कर्तनो गर्यो यद्वा जयेम यदि बाणो जयेयुः। यानेव हत्वा नाजिजीविषामस्तेतावस्थिता प्रमुखधार्ते राष्ट्र। कार्पण्ये दोषोपहत स्वभावः पृच्छामि त्वां धर्म सम्मेणुचेतः। यच्छेह स्यानि निश्चितं ब्रूहि तन्मेह शिष्यते हम शादि माम त्वां प्रपम्। नहि प्रपश्यामि ममापनुद्धान् यच्छोकमच्छो षड्मिन्द्रियाणाम्। अवाप्य भूमावसपत्मृदम् राज्यं सुराणामपि चाधिपतम्। एवं मुक्त्वा हरिकेशवम् गुणाकेश परन्तपा। न यौतस्य इति गोविन्दा मुक्त्वा तुषीबभुः। यमुवाच हरिकेशः प्रहसन्निव भारत सेनयोरुभयो मध्ये विषीदन्तमिदं वचः। असोच्यान्वशोचसे प्रज्ञावादंश्च भाषसे। गता सुञ्चः नानुशोचिन्त पंडिता। न त्वेवाहं जातु नासं न त्वं नेमे जनाधिता। न चैव न भविष्यामि सर्वे वयत्तम परम्। देहिनोऽस्मिन्नता देह कौमारं यौवनं जरा तथा देहांत प्राप्त धीरस्र न मुहति। मात्रा स्पर्श तु कौन्तेय शीतोषण सुख दुखदा। आगमापायिनो नित्यास्ता स्थिति तिक्षस्व भारत। यमहीना व्यर्थथयन्ते पुरुषं पुरुषर्भ वे समुद्र रव सुखम धीरम सो तत्वात्व कल्पते। ये मैंने आपके सामने कुछ श्लोक प्रस्तुत किए। मैं इनका एक छोटा सा सारांश आपके सामने बोलना चाहूंगी। इन श्लोक में अर्जुन के दुख करुणा और भ्रम से भरा हुआ है। उसकी आंखों में आंसू हैं। यह मानव की वह अवस्था है जब हम भावनाओं में बह जाते हैं और सही निर्णय नहीं ले पाते। श्री कृष्ण जी कहते हैं अर्जुन से कि यह कमजोरी तुम्हारे योग्य नहीं है। उठो और अपने कर्तव्यों के लिए तैयार हो जाओ। यहाँ वीकनेस का मतलब इमोशनल कोलैप्स है। यहाँ पे कमजोरी हमें भावनात्मक रूप से टूट जाना ये बताती है। गीता हमें यह सिखाती है कि हमें किस तरीके से अपने इमोशंस अपनी भावनाओं पे कंट्रोल करना चाहिए, उन पे नियंत्रण रखना चाहिए। जिस उसी तरह हम अपने ड्यूटी अपने कर्तव्यों पर फोकस कर सकेंगे, ध्यान दे सकेंगे। अर्जुन का यहाँ यह तर्क है कि गुरु भीष्म और द्रोण को मारना एक पाप है और ऐसी जीत भी बेकार लगेगी। क्या सही है क्या गलत है कुछ समझ में नहीं आ रहा। अर्जुन इस समय पूरी तरीके से एक नैतिक दुविधा में हैं। उनकी भावनाएं इतनी गहरी हैं कि उन्हें किसी भी तरीके का कोई तर्क, कोई लॉजिक समझ ही नहीं आ रहा। अर्जुन कहते हैं श्री कृष्ण जी से कि मैं आपका शिष्य हूं और मुझे मार्ग दिखाइए। यहाँ एक नए ज्ञान की शुरुआत होती है। यह सबसे महत्वपूर्ण आध्यात्मिक पल है। अर्जुन कहते हैं कि कोई भी चीज मेरा दुख दूर नहीं कर सकती। मैं युद्ध नहीं करूंगा। श्री कृष्ण जी मुस्कुरा के ज्ञान देना शुरू करते हैं और कहते हैं, जब हमारा मन पूरी तरीके से टूट जाता है, उसी समय मनुष्य के अंदर एक वास्तविक परिवर्तन शुरू होता है। यहीं से ही एक असली ज्ञान की शुरुआत होती है। श्री कृष्ण जी कहते हैं कि तुम जिनके लिए शोक कर रहे हो, वास्तव में वह शोक करने योग्य है ही नहीं। हमारी ये बॉडी, हमारा ये शरीर, इसको हमने सच मान लेते हैं और इसीलिए हम दुखी होते हैं। ज्ञानी व्यक्ति हमेशा सोल लेवल में नहीं था जब हम नहीं थे। यहाँ सनातन आत्मा के कंसेप्ट को बताया गया है कि हमारी एक लाइफ, हमारा जीवन एक लगातार चलने वाली यात्रा है, एक कंटिन्यूअस जर्नी है। हम केवल अपने शरीर को बदलते हैं, बचपन, जवानी, बुढ़ापे और फिर एक नया जन्म के रूप में। यहाँ पे डेथ को, मृत्यु को एक सिंबल के रूप में बताया गया है, जो किसी अंत का नहीं बल्कि एक बदलाव का सिंबल है। सुख, दुख, ठंड, गर्मी हमारे जीवन में सब आते रहते हैं, लेकिन कोई भी इमोशंस, कोई भी भावनाएं हर मनुष्य में परमानेंट नहीं होती, स्थायी नहीं होती। इसीलिए हमें उनके प्रति कोई प्रतिक्रिया नहीं देनी चाहिए और ना ही उनके प्रति कोई रिएक्शन करें। यह इसके लिए हमें सहन शक्ति की अति आवश्यकता है। जो व्यक्ति संतुलित कर लेता है वही मोक्ष के योग्य है। सक्सेस और फेलियर, यानी हम अपने जीवन में चाहे कितनी भी सफलता प्राप्त कर लें और चाहे हम अपने जीवन में कितनी भी असफल हो जाएं, हम सभी परिस्थितियों में हमें समान रूप से रहना चाहिए। यही हमारी वास्तविक एक रियल स्ट्रेंथ है, हमारी असली ताकत है। असत्य तो केवल बॉडी है, हमारा शरीर है जो स्थायी नहीं है। सत्य, सोल कभी खत्म नहीं होती। यहाँ पे रियल वर्सेस अनरियल का फर्क समझना ही एक बहुत बड़ा ज्ञान है कि हमें वास्तविक और अवास्तविकता में फर्क समझ आ सके। यहाँ पे रियल को हमारी सोल से कंपेयर किया है और हमारे अनरियल को हमारी बॉडी से कंपेयर किया है। आत्मा अविनाशी है और वह हर जगह फैली हुई है। सोल कोई फिजिकल बॉडी नहीं है, कोई फिजिकल चीज नहीं है, बल्कि ये हमारी प्योर कॉन्शियसनेस है, हमारी एक एक ऐसी जागृत अवस्था, प्योर जागृत अवस्था है। शरीर हमारा नश्वर है, लेकिन हमारी आत्मा नहीं। इसीलिए डेथ से डरना एक अननेसेसरी लगता है। हमें डेथ से, मृत्यु से डरने की कोई आवश्यकता नहीं है। आत्मा ना मरती है और ना ही मारी जा सकती है। यहाँ एक बहुत महत्वपूर्ण लाइन अर्जुन जी कहते हैं कि न जायते म्रियते, यानी आत्मा का ना जन्म होता है और ना ही मृत्यु होती है। यह अमर है, अजर है और शाश्वत है। यही हमारी गीता की एक कोर फिलोसॉफी है, एक वास्तविक ज्ञान है, जिसे अर्जुन अपने इस गीता के थ्रू हमें समझाना चाहते हैं। और वो अर्जुन को हमारे भावनाओं पर किस तरीके से हमें नियंत्रण करना अति आवश्यक है। भावनाएं जो हमें हमारे कर्तव्यों को पूरा करने के लिए रोकती है, हमें बंधनों में बांध के रखती है। हमें अपने सब तरीके के इमोशंस, अपनी भावनाओं पे कंट्रोल कर कर ही जो हम अपने कर्तव्य के प्रति फोकस कर सकते हैं और ध्यान दे सकते हैं। धन्यवाद।
Thank you, Deepika. The next reading from Voice of Silence will be presented by Sister KV Deepika Pati. Uh, Deepika Pate is a member of the Rajamundry Lodge. She served as the Telugu translator for the Theosophical documentary One Fire. She is a very active member of the Telugu Federation. I invite Deepika to present the reading from Voice of Silence.
Thank you, ma'am. I hope I am audible.
Yes, you are.
Yeah, thank you. Namaste. My greetings to everyone. And today's my topic is The Voice of Silence, which is written by H.P. Blavatsky. It is the foundational piece of text presented as translated fragments from the ancient books of the Golden Precepts. It serves as a guide for spiritual aspirants, detailing the path to enlightenment through compassion, self renunciation, and meditation, focusing on the Mahayana Buddhist Bodhisattva ideal. The sections of the book were divided into three main fragments. In the first fragment, The Voice of Silence focuses on the initial steps for an aspirant, emphasizing the need to still the mind, control senses, and prepare for inner awakening. It describes the transition from hearing the voice of higher from the lower self. The second fragment contrasts the path of liberation for self with the path of renunciation, the Bodhisattva path. It teaches that true wisdom is gained through selfless service to humanity rather than merely seeking personal escape from suffering. And the main topic today is the fragment 3, 7 portals or paramitas, that the student must pass through the reach to reach the veils of bliss and achieve high level consciousness. The inner silent watcher. The ultimate goal is to awaken the silent watcher within, representing the true higher self and direct connection to the divine. The heresy of separateness is a core teaching in that all beings are united, and believing in a separate, isolated self is the dire heresy that causes suffering. Compassion and selflessness. It emphasizes that spiritual progress is impossible without absolute compassion and the abandonment of self selfish desires. The path of Bodhisattva who renounces nirvana to help others is held up as the highest ideal over the path of individual liberation. In this book, The Voice of Silence by H.P.B. is an excellent spiritual guide for seekers of enlightenment. In this path, the seven portals are the main parameters that the practitioner must cross on the path of Bodhisattva. While there are usually six parameters in Buddhism, Blavatsky adds Vairaga to them, describing them into seven parameters. Let's see those parameters. First parameter is charity and love, the immortal analysis. It is not just about donating material things, completely abandoning one's ego. It is to cultivating universal love, abandoning the concept of I and mine.
Deepika, are you there?
Am I audible, ma'am? Excuse me.
Yes, Deepika, you're audible.
Yeah, thank you. Just clear the current is go. I mean power cut. Um,
Your signal is very
so
weak. I think you can switch off the video so that we can hear the audio at least.
yeah, okay, ma'am. Is it okay now, ma'am?
Yes, now the audio is clear.
Yeah, yeah. Here just the power cut is happened. Okay, next continuing my part. Uh, Abandoning the concept of I and mine and seeing all beings as part of oneself is the very initial practice that everyone should overcome this parameter, which is also called dana. A seeker sees, for example, a seeker sees a person who has wronged them in deep distress. Instead of feeling vindictive, they offer genuine help and comfort, recognizing that the other person's suffering is their own. They give not for merit, but because the sense of separate I has vanished. And coming to second Shila, harmony in word and art act analysis. It balances the cycle of karma. Our deeds and words are meant to be in harmony with the soul and nature without harming others. This prevents the action of karma. In this, a person chooses to remain silent during a heated argument where they could easily win by using cutting words. But they prioritize the harmony of the environment and the avoidance of negative karma over the satisfaction of the ego. And coming to next one, Shanti, patience. It is the crucial one that does not waver for anything. To keep the mind steady in the face of good and bad, happiness and sorrows, and calamities. It increases the self esteem. The patient by a practitioner faces a period of intense personal loss or physical pain. Instead of asking, why me? Or falling into despair, they maintain a sweet, unwavering inner stillness, accepting the situation as a passing cloud that cannot touch their inner sun. Next one, Vairag. Indifference of pleasure and pain means the conquering Maya and seeing only the truth, hopes, and desires. One should balances between them. It is also known as indifferences to pleasure and pain. If an individual receives a prestigious award and shortly after a harsh public insult, they treat both events with the same calm detachment, realizing that the both fame and shame are part of the great illusion Maya and do not define the soul. And next one, Vaidya, the dauntless energy analysis. The person with a great courage to overcome this phase and avoid the obstacles in the search for the truth. The power to break free from the mire of lies and fight for the highest truth. This is self-confidence. Attains after years of meditation or with a great dedication towards the divinity. Also, with little visible progress, a seeker feels exhausted. Instead of quitting, they summon a dauntless will and continue until the divine reveals and the sixth one is dhyana, the perfect concentration, continuous contemplation of the truth. To distract the mind from the external world and stand on the eternal sat. It is caused by dharana. This dharana is the task that every person experiences greatly to his next step. While sitting in a noisy city, the meditator becomes so absorbed in the contemplation of the eternal sat, which is the truth, that the sounds of traffic and people fade entirely. The mind becomes like a flame in a windless place, completely focused on the inner light. And the last stage is prajna, the perfect knowledge or wisdom. It is the final gate that the knowledge transforms a man into bodhisattva. This is the state of non duality, the state of oneness of soul with the Supreme Being. The seeker experiences a moment where the watcher and the watched become one. There is no longer a person seeking God. There is only the realization that they have always been the Supreme Being. The drop has finally slipped into the shining sea. According to Blavatsky, these seven parameters are not mere qualities. They are the seven protective shields that enable one to abate karmas, free from the soul from illusion, and enable one to hear the voice of silence. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Deepika. Our next reading from Light of Asia will be presented by Brother Sri Harsha. Uh, Sri Harsha is a chartered accountant and a public speaker, and he is a deeply spiritually inclined member. I request Sri Harsh to present the reading from Light of Asia.
Sure. Thank you so much. Before Light of Asia, I just wanted to take 10-15 seconds of time because today is White Lotus Day and it is not, as HPP said, it is not a day of mourning, but rather a day of understanding within, and it is a day of reflection, inner reflection, right? That is why Bhagavad Gita or Voice of Silence or Light of Asia are read or in a way understood in groups because they form a meaning if understood rightly because everybody has their own interpretation. And if you take Light of Asia, it was authored by Edwin Arnold and it is in English. But if you read the stanzas or the poem, the collective poems from each chapter, right? If you read it as is, there would be so much of questions. There would be so much of questions because as to first question is, are we able to really understand what the author is saying? Is the first question that that we should understand. So here, what HPV meant as part of White Lotus Day, it is that she wants this day to be a day where we can ponder using these resources. It's not we read and we go on to the next year again read. It is a contemplation. Today we read, tomorrow also we read, day after also we read, and it is a series of contemplations and overall how we are and where we want to be and how we want to grow as a theosophist. That is the expectation of Madam. So without any further delay, I would like to go with Light of Asia, the fifth chapter, right? Here, just on a summary, I would like to tell you what is happening in the fifth. There is a place, right? There is a place in the old kingdom of Magadha, a hill called Ratnagiri, the hill of gems. Ratnagiri, the hill of gems. A winding track climbs past saffron fields and bamboo, past mango trees and milk white veins of rock until it reaches a cave canopied by wild figs. Right? Here, Edwin Arnold pauses in his poem and asks the reader to that he found something interesting in his lines I'm reading. Lo, thou who comest thither, bare thy feet, and bow thy head for all his spacious earth, hath not a spot more dear and hallowed. Why? Because here the young Siddhartha, not yet the Buddha, young Siddhartha, still searching, sat through scorching summers and chilly dawns, wearing the yellow robe, eating from a beggar's bowl, while jackals yelped and tigers coughed in the thickest blow. This chapter, the fifth, is the story of what Siddhartha saw and did during those 6 years of seeking. And now, today's evening, in next 10-15 minutes, I want to walk that 6 years of journey of Siddhartha with you. The fifth chapter is structured around four encounters, four meetings that each teach the seeker something. And through him teaches us they are the first, the ascetics on the hill, the yogis and the brahmacharis who tortured their flesh for the sake of the soul. Next, Kisa Gautami, the mother carrying a dead child asking for a cure. And the third, King Bimbisara's sacrifice, 100 goats and 100 sheep at the altar. And the fourth, a memory from a former life, the starving tigress on the rocks of Munda. Four scenes, four turnings, together, they sketch the moral landscape from which the Buddha would emerge from Siddhartha. Let us walk through them, right? When we go to the first part, the ascetics, this is conceptualized as the body as enemy, right? Midway up the Ratnagiri, the prince finds a gaunt and a mournful band, yogis, brahmacharis, who, as Arnold writes, hold the body foe to soul. He describes them in unflinching detail. Some have stood with arms lifted, so long their joints have withered. Some have clenched their fists until their nails grew through their palms. Some walk on spiked sandals, some gash themselves with flint, some live among funeral pyres for company. And Siddhartha, still a prince, asks them a simple, devastating question. Wherefore add ye ills to life which is so evil? His question is so simple and innocent. The chief ascetic answers from the orthodox tradition. The mortifying the flesh purges the soul. That suffering here buys glory hereafter. And here Arnold gives Siddhartha one of the most beautiful arguments in the poem. He points to a cloud wreathed like gold around Indra's throne. That cloud, he says, rose from the sea and it must fall again as rain, trickling throughout cleft and Nala back to the Ganges, back to the sea. Whatever rises falls. Whatever is bought is spent. So even if you purchase heaven with your blood, it falls, it goes, right? And when the bargain's through, the toil begins again, Arnold says. This, I want to suggest the first great theosophical teaching from the fifth chapter from Light of Asia, that no transaction with the gods can liberate us. Heaven itself is impermanent. Heaven itself is impermanent. Even the gods, the yogis admit, do not endure. Only the great Brahma endures. The gods but live. Self torture buys at best a long dream that must end. Siddhartha presses further with a metaphor that any seeker will recognize. The body, he says, is like a house with windows that give us light. The body, he says, is like a house with windows that give us light. The light, which is very little, by which we see the road. Why dismantle the house before we have used it to find our way home? So when he says the body is the light, and here is recontemplating by saying, when you are devastating that little light, how are you going to see the end of the road and how are you going to reach the road? It is the middle way in seed form before he has even reached Bodhi Yoga. Sorry, it is the middle way in seed form before he has even reached Bodh Gaya. So here, Siddhartha, not yet Buddha, is trying to contemplate with the yogis, understanding if the light is contemplated as our body, and when you are shredding that light, how are you seeing that road? That is the first part. And coming to the second, where he comes to Kisa Gautami. Siddhartha walks down the hill. By the riverside, a young woman, Arnold says, she has a dove eye, bows to him, and she is weeping. She had met him the day before. Her child had been bitten by a snake while playing with the grove. The boy, she says, was laughing and teasing the snake's quick forked tongue, and then he turned pale and would not suck at her breast. She had asked him for a cure, and he gently had told her this: bring me a tola of black mustard seed only, and here is the condition: bring it from a house where no father, no mother, no child, no slave has ever died. So he says, bring a mustard seed, but he puts a condition: bring it from a home where no father, no mother, no child, no slave has ever died. She tells him what happened. She went from hut to hut, clasping her cold child to her breast. Have you have this mustard seed? Yes, every house had it. Has anyone died here? And the answer every time was the same. Oh sister, what is this you ask? The dead are very many and the living are very few. She could not find a single house untouched by death. And so she comes back, desperate, dim with hope, to ask the holy man where such a house might be. And the master smiles, exceeding tenderly, and says, my sister, thou hast found, searching for what none finds. That bitter balm I had to give thee, he thou love slept dead on thy bosom yesterday. Today thou knowest the whole wide world weeps with thy woe. The grief which all hearts share grows less for one. Bury thou my child. Friends, brothers, this is one of the oldest teaching stories in the Buddhist canon. And Arnold here clarifies and tells us that in this verse, with extraordinary restraint, notice that what Buddha does, he does not lecture her on impermanence. He does not say all things must pass. He does not say this too shall pass. He sends her on a walk. He lets the village teach her. He lets the mustard seed she could not find become her teacher. The grief which all hearts share grow less for one. The universality of suffering is not a cold consolidation. It is paradoxically the doorway out of isolation. This is nothing but dukkha, the first noble truth told as a mother's story. And coming to the next one, the sacrifice. Life cannot be bought with blood. Now comes the third encounter. Like we saw the first two encounters, and now comes the third, and it is dramatic. As Siddhartha walks, herdsmen pass him driving white goats and black sheep down to the city. One small lamb has hurt its leg and is lagging behind, bleeding, while the mother Eve runs anxious between her two children. Without a word, the prince picks up the limping lamb and carries it on his shoulder, saying, I love this line, right? I love this line. All as good to ease one beast of grief, as sit and watch the sorrows of the world. In wonder, caverns with the priests who pray. There is a whole philosophy of action in those three lines actually. The cave of meditation is good, but to lift one limping lamb is also good, right? Perhaps better in that moment. He asks the herdsman where they are going. The answer, King Bimbisara is sacrificing 100 goats and 100 sheep tonight to please the gods. The master says simply, I will also go. Imagine it. He enters the city carrying a lamb. The guards step back. The market falls silent. The smith forgets to strike. The weaver leaves his web. The money changer loses his count of queries. Even, even Shiva's white bull wanders unwatched into the rice. The women whisper at the doors, who is this? Can he be Sakra or Devaraja? He walks into the king's hall of offering, where Brahmins are chanting mantras and a slow scarlet streamlet of blood is running into the sand. A priest stands with knife pressed to the throat of the goat, saying or chanting, let the king's sins be laid upon this goat. Now I strike. And Buddha softly says, let him not strike, great king. And then he speaks. He speaks of life. Life which can all can take, but none can give. He speaks of how man who prays to the gods for mercy is merciless to those for whom he is God. Right? He speaks of the law that binds all action, that no one can wish or no one can wash his spirit clean by another's blood, that no innocent beast can carry our karma, that each soul alone must reckon with. The lines are the fixed arithmetic of the universe, which metteth good for good and ill for ill, measure for measure unto deeds, words, thoughts. This is karma stated as cleanly as it has ever been stated in English words, as rightly claimed by Arnold. And the result is astonishing, right? The priests drop their knives. The king clasps his palms. He does like this. Bimbisara issues a royal edict carved on rock and column, ending blood sacrifice in his hand. Seeing that knowledge grows and life is one, and mercy cometh to the merciful. With that ends the third chapter, third point as well in the fifth chapter. Now, in the last segment, the tigress, compassion beyond calculation. And then here the author Arnold pauses the narrative to remind us that this very compassion is not new. He recalls a story from a former life, a Jataka tale. Long ago, when Buddha wore a Brahmin's form on the rock called Munda, a great drought scorched the land. He came upon a starving tigress in a nalla, her two cubs winning at her dry teats, hunger garning in their eyes. So the tigress and the cubs were hungry. And the Bodhisattva thought, and this is the line that always stops me personally. There is no other way to help this murderess of the woods but one. By sunset, these will die because they are starving. Having no meat, there is no living heart will pity her. Bloody with raven, lean for lack of blood. Lo, if I feed her, who shall lose but I? And how can love lose, doing of its kind, even to the uttermost? And he set aside his sandals, his staff, his sacred thread, and stepped out from behind the milk bush, saying, O mother, here is meat for thee. This is compassion that does not calculate. This is compassion which has no calculations. The tigress is called a murderess. She is not innocent. She is, in any normal moral accounting, less worthy than the man who feeds her. And yet, how can love lose doing of its kind even to the uttermost? He says. The Bodhisattva ideal in a single sentence is that only. Even if they are not so innocent, even if they are harmful, what if you shower love, and what is wrong in showering love? Is what Bodhisattva says here. So, what does this entire chapter 5 of Light of Asia says us or reminds us as taken whole? What does it say? It gives us a Buddha not yet enlightened. He has not yet sat under the Bodhi tree. He is still one of face weak with 6 years of quest. This chapter ends with him leaving Rajagriha for Gaya, still searching. And yet, look at what he has already done. He has refuted the path of self-torture without contempt for those who walk in. He has consoled a grieving mother without a single word of doctrine. He didn't speak anything to the mother. He explained with a experience. Okay, the mother only reached out to every home to find a mustard seed where there are no deaths in that family. Right? He has stopped a state sacrifice with the force of his presence alone. He has remembered in his own bones a love that gives itself entirely. For our tradition, I think this chapter 5 from the Light of Asia holds these teachings very much, and which is very much important. I am very happy for the fact today in the White Lotus Day, we are able to talk about this. We should be able to talk more about this kind of topics. Reason? Because as the author is also saying, compassion or enlightenment, things like that, they are not new. They exist. It is just that we need to touch them, we need to feel them, we need to experience them as a whole, as a universal concept. Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity.
Thank you, Sri Harsha. I thank all our three speakers who have presented the readings from the three books which Madam Blavatsky wanted. And now, as we near the end of our session, I will request Professor C.A. Shinde to say a few words as tribute to Madam Blavatsky.
Thank you, thank you. I am really very happy to listen to Light of Asia. Harsha, very congratulations. The first time I heard of Light of Asia reading with wholeheartedly, and you have that knack to convey what Arnold wants to convey with his poetic language. Really, I appreciate Sri Harsha's presentation. Well, to speak on this White Lotus Day, it is to express our honor, reverence to H.P. Blavatsky, who gave us the whole knowledge of ancient wisdom through masters of the wisdom to the world. And what she said, cleanse your bodies, especially mental body, emotional body, and physical body. And he gave 3 steps: a clean life, an open mind, and pure heart. So if you do this with eager intellect, then you will perceive that which is right, and you do no mistakes, henceforth. This is what in triplicity she gave us the knowledge, and let us remember that. I must congratulate all this, even Bhagavad Gita, who read that lady. Very nice. All this, all the three people, including Vibhaji, is exceptional. But she is very nice, Vibhaji, whatever she arranges. So whole program, very appreciating, very uplifting. Thank you very much, Vibhaji. Very nice program I heard. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. And now, as we come to the end of our program today, let us all send our heartfelt tribute to Madame Blavatsky and keep this flame of wisdom and compassion burning in our hearts, which was ignited by her, the light bringer. And we will close the session with our closing prayer. Om Asato Ma Satgamaya Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya Mrityorma Amritam Gamaya. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Thank you all for your presence.